Welcome to your View from the Top. I'm your host, Chris Freites. Thank you all for coming here. Before we get started, I want to give a big shout out and thank you to our partners at IBM for making this whole evening possible and for all their support for the race series. In fact, in Miami, Axios and the Race hosted an amazing event around the F1 Grand Prix that would not have been possible without the strong support of IBM. So thank you to the IBM team. And without further ado, I want to introduce our View from the Top guest. Vanessa Hunt is the General Manager for Technology for the Federal Market at IBM. Vanessa, welcome. So stoked to have you here.
Great to see you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. So lots to talk about here, and I think being in F1, you have to talk about F1 racing, but that's not the only data-driven sport that you guys really provide a lot of data for. There's golf, there's tennis. So I wonder, kind of when you talk about all the fun things that people see you sponsor, how does that interact with the federal government? How do those partnerships work?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the one main thing that we've really learned from our engagement in sports is really how to turn data and insights into action fast. If you think of Formula One, you have to take millions of data points and analyze them to make split-second decisions. If you think as a viewer at the US Open, or I don't know if you have the Masters app, Chris, all of the things that make that experience, that digital experience or that in-person experience that enhance that experience for you are all driven by AI and hybrid cloud technology. So we can apply that same technology to different industries, including the federal government.
That's amazing. And I wonder then, why hasn't this transformation happened faster at the federal government level? Kind of what are you doing to change that?
Right. Well, listen, I think more is happening than probably most people realize. I think every agency that we work with is on this digital journey, and they are looking at different ways that AI can impact and improve their outcomes and their mission. Some agencies are further along than others, of course. And I think what is also taking maybe a little bit longer, but is so valuable, is I think our federal government is really trying to lead in this area. They don't want to just do AI for AI's sake. They want to ensure that it's done the right way, that it has the right outcomes for them, that it's done in an ethical, transparent, open, and secure way. And that takes more time to think through.
So I think there's a lot of subjects on our audience's mind here, but I want to talk about one that's near and dear to my heart, which is like AI hype versus AI reality, right? Because there's so much noise in space. And I wonder, kind of, how are you making sure that AI delivers that value, right? That it's not just a flashy sponsorship.
Yeah, well, I think the key word there is exactly what you said, Chris, which is value. This is an area that IBM has been involved for decades. I think it was 2011 that Watson beat Jeopardy, the Jeopardy champ. So this was not new to us. But I think with the rise of more of the consumer level AI, things like ChatGPT, we did see a lot of excitement, right? I know my kids were really excited when they could put a picture of a dog that they customized onto their water bottle. There were those types of use cases that made people excited. There's also a lot of fear and concern, right, about how are we going to manage this and the implications of this on our government and on our businesses. I think where we've gotten now and where we certainly try to encourage our clients to get to is about exactly your point, value. There's a lot of things we can do. There's a lot of use cases that we can chase with great results. But how does an enterprise or the federal government actually get value out of this technology is a different question. And that should drive which use cases they focus on. And it really depends on what their mission is and what they're trying to achieve. In IBM, our CEO really pushed us towards value. He last year said to our leadership team, I believe in this technology. I think we need to apply it within our own company, and we can take out over $2 billion of bottom line productivity gains. We're now at already over $3.5 billion in productivity gains that we've seen just from applying this technology across our organization.
So huge value there.
Yes.
Are there any specific cases that you think are good for people to know about?
Absolutely. I mean, my favorite, because I interact with it every day, is what we've done in HR. So
wow.
we created a digital assistant that helps us with all of our HR work. And I will tell you, I was the first person to say, I don't really want to use this. I have an HR partner who I know will still help me. It wasn't until I realized that the experience of using this digital assistant was actually better for me. It helped me get things done more quickly. It helped me not have to go into each individual system. I was able to interact and get tasks done directly with the assistant, that I really saw the value of this technology. And what I love about that too is the same technology that helps you in that one part of the business and those processes in HR can be applied just as easily to other areas of the business, legal, finance. Again, back to seeing the value from what you invest in.
Right, and there's so many different ways to see that value. When you talk to your partners in the federal government, how do you talk to them about the value? Because there's so many different ways that it could be applied.
Yep. Well, I think I take a lesson again, like I said, from our CEO. I think our clients really have to set the goal and the target. What is it their mission? What are they trying to improve? What efficiencies are they trying to gain? And really set a target of this is what I want to see. And we can really quickly prove out now whether that can be effective or not. And by the way, it's not always. The importance there is speed. If you can within a month set up a POC and see that you're not going to get to that target, then we can pivot and figure out which use case we should be pursuing.
So it's a partnership. You kind of figure out what's going to work for those clients.
Absolutely, yes.
What is one thing people should know, since you're deeply enmeshed in AI, the hype versus the facts? What's one thing folks here should take away? Because we hear so much every day about how important AI is. What should they know?
Yeah.
And how should they be thinking about it if they want to take it back to their organizations? How should they start to think about, well, how could AI help me? How could IBM help me?
Yeah, I think what people need to think about, and again, I think this is an area that IBM is really strong, is the governance piece. Really thinking through how you are going to manage AI within your organization, and that's an area that we can help. But I think in terms of what people should be excited about, it's that we're really just in our infancy on this journey. If you look at foundation models have been trained primarily 99% on public data. Now that's great, but what's the power that we can see when that's actually trained on enterprise data? Only 1% of these foundation models have been trained on enterprise data. What's the value we can unlock when we get those more specific targeted foundation models?
So when we have your data, and we're working with your organization's data, imagine the insights that we could drive and the efficiency we could drive and the speed
exactly
we could drive.
it.
Okay,
That's exactly it.
That's amazing.
Yes.
So we have just a couple minutes left, but
Yes.
I don't want to let you leave the stage here without asking kind of what's the most exciting thing that you see in AI right now? Where are we headed?
I love that question. I will say what is the most exciting for me is when we see this technology really power our clients' mission. And as I said, I see that every day with clients across the federal government. My favorite one is with the VA. We applied AI and automation technology towards their claims processing division. And as you can imagine, that's a hugely complex task. Right? Billions of dollars being given out every year to millions of individuals. I think the manual that helps train people on all of the rules and regulations around claims at the VA is 5,000 pages long.
Oh, man.
So a really difficult task. We automated the claims processing and took it from an average claim taking 27 days to finalize to 24 hours. And the VA was able to take hundreds of their employees and repurpose them, refocus them on higher value work. So that was really great to see.
And not to mention that veterans now are being served
Exactly.
like infinitely faster,
Right.
27 days to a day.
Right, exactly. We talk at IBM about work that matters, and I can't think of much that matters more than us serving our veterans in a more effective and efficient way.
Well, we have to leave it there. Vanessa Hunt, thank you so much. Thank you to the team at
Chris.
IBM
Thank
for
you all
making
for
this
being
amazing
here.
event. Big hand
Thank
for
you.
Vanessa Hunt. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, stick around. We got one more before cocktail hour.